Hi, I'm Tyler, founder of Cozy Earth. When you're thinking about the perfect gift, what better way to show your loved ones that you care than by giving them something that helps them feel better, sleep better, and add superior luxury to their everyday life? If you sleep in our sheets for 100 nights and don't absolutely love your experience, we'll refund your money. No questions asked. This year, give the gift of Cozy Earth. Once they try it, they'll never go back.
Use code Spotify at CozyEarth.com and save up to 40%. That's CozyEarth.com/Spotify.
Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Katz and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Well,
that was Clint Eastwood, but there's a reason we're playing it.
That's what Trump said to the rest of the gang.
Yes, he said if the hostages are not released, there is going to be hell to pay. He's talking, of course, about the ones in Israel, the ones taken from Israel, held by Hamas and others.
Let this go out to all intelligence sources, and I know you're listening. Trump says, make my day.
I love that. He said there will be hell to pay if they are not released by January 20th when he's back in the Oval Office.
They will see the 51 virgins sooner.
Oh, wow. That would be great. They deserve it.
Is it 51?
I thought it was like 40 something, but
how many virgins are there?
Not many left. By the way,
that's comment.
That's reminiscent of Reagan.
Yes.
Remember what happened with Reagan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And of course, you guys, let's talk also this weekend. It came on the word of 2 Americans, Israeli Americans, but they're listed as Americans. They believe there's 4 alive, John, and one of them was like paraded out in a horrible propaganda footage. The good news is it looks like he's alive. He's a guy from New Jersey, and then there's a guy from New York who they determined just a few hours ago was killed.
When did President Biden ever make a statement like, bring them back now, or there's a price to be paid?
Yeah, or pound the fist on the table. Think about if had he done that on day one, maybe they would have been released, Judge Weinberg. I agree.
And he kept the Suez Canal, the Red Sea closed for how long?
Yeah.
For how long is it, Peter? 6 months, 7 months, 8 months?
Absolutely.
Oh, at least, yeah.
Ronald Reagan turned in his grave 600 times already.
Right.
Yeah, it's incredible, the weakness and what we've already seen. And the other thing, by the way, it also just came out recently that Trump is planning on calling cartels, of course, which are running all the operations at the border, to call them terrorist organizations.
That's
so then
they are.
And go after them. The fact they're not.
That
Isn't
is
that
overdue,
amazing?
long overdue.
It's another sign of make my day, right? That he is bringing it on and getting rid of all these horrible forces.
And there's sides to the issue. Biden loved to say this side and that side, one hand, the other hand. No, there's no 2 sides.
In the next couple of days, that subway rescuer rescued all those subway riders,
Daniel Penny,
the judge is going to make a decision, or the jury is going to make a decision. What say you, Peter? That's your area.
Yeah, that is an absolute disgrace. Actually, Tom Kniff, the lawyer, used to be a constituent of mine. No, that is an absolute disgrace. He should be getting the medal, whatever the highest medal the city can get. They should have given it to Daniel Penny. It's an absolute travesty of justice, disgrace that he's on trial. Alvin Bragg, for that alone, should be impeached and removed from office.
That case never should have been brought. Absolutely never should have been brought. And if I were the presiding Supreme Court judge, I would have thrown that case out right away.
It's preposterous. By the way, I want to tell everybody, closing arguments were today. So tomorrow it's probably going to go to the jury. 7 women, 5 men. And most of them all rode on a subway. So at least they can relate to how scary it was for the other passengers and also for Daniel Penny. And it turns out the guy was high as a kite. The Jordan Neely, the guy who died.
Now, what was the other breaking news?
The other breaking news is this is interesting, John. We knew that Kamala Harris did not do well. In fact, let's do a little breaking news sounder to lead into it.
Breaking news, WABC.
Kamala Harris, John, gets to become the first candidate since 1932.
That's almost 100 years.
Yeah, to not flip a single county. That's incredible, John.
Not a single county of the 3,144 counties.
Judge Weinberg is only 3 years old, and I think.
Oh, those are fighting words, Peter.
Peter and I were in a hospital at the same time.
The other breaking news in the New York Post today, was the migrant crisis. Tell us about it, Rita.
Yeah. Oh, this is really amazing. They are saying, first of all, in the United States, over 670,000 migrants that have been convicted of a crime, serious crimes, or pending crimes. And in New York City alone, John, 58,000 criminal migrants and more than 1,000 gang members, according to ICE telling the New York Post. Pete, you think about what kind of damage 1,000 gang members in New York City alone. That is frightening.
You know, things are bad enough to begin with, and you have that unloaded on top of you. It's absolutely terrible. You have to blame Joe Biden. You have to blame Eric Adams for having a welcome wagon out for them.
And don't forget the state legislature.
Give me breaking
Let
news
them
one
out.
more time.
Oh, wait, we got some more breaking
News, WABC.
All right. This just coming in. I am pleased to announce, this is from Donald Trump, that Warren A. Stevens, the very successful businessman, will serve as U.S. ambassador to the Court of St. James.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really great. A role which he will act as our representative to the United Kingdom.
That's a big job.
That's a big job. That's obviously one of our close allies.
That and France is the biggest job.
Yeah, and France.
And how about Italy, too?
And France, by the way, went to, as you saw over the weekend,
But
it went to Jared Kushner's father.
You don't gain weight in France and you don't gain weight in England, but in Italy you gain weight.
Yeah, Italy, you gain a lot. Although there is good onion soup in France, and good escargot.
Yep.
You know, you can't
I've
miss
never
that.
been in a more relaxing country than Italy. They eat and they sleep and they're happy.
Welcome to Spain.
Nobody has an okay.
Right. Pete, I went to Spain. It was like, you want another tapa? You're like, could I have breakfast first? You know?
And dinner, it's not till 11 o'clock at night. I couldn't take that.
Yeah. Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy.
But
And, right.
nap during the afternoon, get ready for dinner.
Yeah, the siesta.
Right.
The long, long siesta. Now, the other thing, too, you guys, other big news as we're talking about positions.
You know what I like?
What?
Oh, wait. You know, did we talk about New York City, the breaking news in the New York Post?
Yeah, we did. Which one? The one about the migrants. Yes,
The
we
migrants.
did. Yes,
Okay,
we did.
good.
But you know what? Cash Patel is a New Yorker.
Oh,
yeah.
well,
It's
Peter
Queen-
King, Congressman King,
Yeah,
you know him well.
Yes,
Tell
I do.
us about Cash Patel.
Yeah, I was on the Intelligence
The new
Committee.
FBI director.
I was on the Intelligence Committee during that whole phony Russia investigation. Cash Patel was our staff director, did a phenomenal job. He's the one that tore apart the Steele dossier. He's the one who found out about the phony wiretapping that was going on. He's really a solid guy. In an ordinary time, he may not be the guy you picked to be FBI director, but at times like this where you got to clean house, you got to shake things up. John is your type of guy. Total common sense. Get everybody out of the way, and that's what he's going to do.
And
Great
a
guy.
New Yorker. And a New Yorker,
New York,
too.
Queens, Nassau County, smart guy, hardworking. He's like a bulldog. He won't stop, and he's smart though. Really, really smart guy.
Yeah, and knows a lot about
Congressman
intel.
King is endorsing him for FBI director.
Does that mean
enough.
he's a
That's
good
good
or
enough
bad?
for me?
That's good. That's great
Thank you,
enough
John.
for me.
Yeah,
That's great
very
enough
good.
for me.
What's better, great or good?
I depends on the day.
I like the word great.
And my
too.
first choice is Judge Weinberg, but he couldn't afford to take the pay cut. So.
That's true.
correct.
That's true. Well, you know what? By the way, speaking of all the pardon stuff, we're going to get Miranda Devine on in 1 second here. But as we're waiting for Miranda, today we also have Andy McCarthy. He's going to talk about the legal aspects of the Hunter Biden pardon. We have Mark Meadows, former White House chief of staff.
And worked very well in Congress. Very solid guy.
Interesting. It's going to be interesting, Pete, to hear his perspective on all this. We also have former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is coming up, and we're going to get his take. This is going to be a great show.
Wait till you hear what Governor Cuomo has to say about what goes
pardon.
The pardon.
I can't wait to
Make
hear
sure we
that.
keep Curtis out of the studio.
And Bill
We have him locked
O'Reilly.
out. We have Curtis locked out.
Yeah, we have him locked out. They're coming to take him away, remember? And Bill O'Reilly, we also have coming up here also on the show. He's going to be talking about that, Cash Patel and the Daniel Penny case. Did you see also President Trump coming out and saying, well, I'm going to start looking at all the January 6 cases and all these others because what happened with the Hunter Biden pardon
Don't
opens
say that
the door.
in front of Peter King.
Here we go. John,
Pete, your reaction, Pete. Your reaction, Pete.
I have no reaction. We all love each other. We all love each other.
That's right. We exhausted that topic last week.
Yeah, we did. But it's an interesting point that he makes just
No, you're
on,
right. Double
on other
standard.
cases.
Absolutely.
The double standard.
By
And
the way, Biden and his remarks granting the pardon talked about the poor Hunter, the double standard. I think he's a beneficiary of his double
Absolutely.
standard.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I couldn't believe believe that Biden came out, and Pete, we talked about this.
Yeah.
When I first heard the pardon happen, I wasn't surprised because I felt like, okay, as a father, he's going to do it. The son had the sentencing date,
Right.
by the way, you guys, it was coming up in about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Right.
So he had a narrow window to do it for a lot of reasons. So I wasn't surprised. But then I see the statement saying,
Right.
if his name wasn't Hunter, he never would have been targeted. He's a victim of persecution.
Now, the bottom
From
line is,
Biden?
yeah, you shouldn't have done it, but I understood it. I'm a father. Maybe I would have done the same thing. It's hard to say you're going to let your son stay in jail. But he should have done it from the point of view, my son made a lot of bad mistakes. He did a lot of wrong things. He was guilty of these crimes, but I believe he's changed his life around. And because of that, I'm doing this part. Instead, he made out he's a victim.
Right.
I understand Andrew McCarthy's on, Rita?
Yes, we have Andy McCarthy, who is the former deputy assistant attorney there at the Southern District of New York. Andy, we're so happy to have you here on the show. Your reaction to Hunter Biden, because you said it, I remember months ago, Andy, I think it was like back in June, you said he is going to pardon his son, even though he kept saying no one's above the law, Andy.
Yeah, well, you know, I can shorten this because I heard Pete right before we got on, and I agree with everything he said. I just think they should have been more honest about what they were doing. But if you followed the litigation against Hunter, the two criminal cases, particularly the tax case in September, where remember when the jury was being picked, he came in on the day of the trial starting and pled guilty to the whole indictment and tried to do it without
no negotiations, Andy. He just pled.
Yeah, and that was a real tell that he knew he was getting pardoned, because a rational defendant doesn't come in and eat the whole indictment, you know, plead guilty to every count. You try to negotiate and get, you know, plead guilty to fewer counts so you have less prison exposure. But if you know you don't have to worry about those little details, you do what he did. And you only do that if you know you're getting pardoned.
Andrew, I said this morning that I don't blame a father for pardoning his son, because I think almost what percentage of fathers do you think will pardon their son?
Well, I've said, John, a number of times, if it was my sons, I'd have done it. Now, I think the honorable thing to do is to resign after you do it, because it's a terrible abuse of power and it's self-dealing.
Well, he is resigning January 20th. Doesn't mean
he's being resigned.
He's being resigned, and he's right.
No, but I went on to say that a father will always pardon a son, also a daughter.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to, you know.
What about friends?
John,
Would you pardon us?
Can I ask you a question about that, though? Because I think this goes to the dishonesty of President Biden. If it was my kid, I wouldn't subject him to trials. You know, I wouldn't have.
Well, was that before the election or after?
It was before the election.
Okay, that's
exactly
you answered your own
point.
question.
Right,
Now,
but all this tugging at the heartstrings, it's, you know, It would be a lot more impressive if he hadn't made political calculations and decided, you know, I'd love to help you out here, but we got an election coming up, so you're going to have to go through these trials.
Andrew, you're gonna. What I said this morning on Sid's show is that I don't have a problem a father pardoning a son, but I feel that between what the son did and what the father did,
and the uncle,
right,
and the Holy Ghost, and that they came very close or exceeded the word treason.
And Andy, how come it went back to January 1, 2014? What's the significance of that, Andy?
You know the date. You know the date. It's the date he joined Burisma. It's the date he joined the Burisma board.
Yeah, but there's more to it than that, I think. And this is why it wouldn't surprise me if you saw more pardons related to the Biden family business before it's all said and done. I think what President Biden is concerned about is that you could get a Jack Smith type prosecutor, except this time somebody on the other side, who looks at this and says, well, you know, those crimes when Joe Biden was vice president, they're time barred now. The statute of limitations is run. But if I have this creative conspiracy theory that carries the whole scheme into the period of time where you could still indict, I might not indict them, but I could certainly start an investigation. And as I think people in the Trump camp would tell you, investigation is almost as bad as being charged because it's financially ruinous for them. It's all the anxiety and the stigma and the lost economic opportunity. I think they're worried about an investigation that goes after the things that the Biden Justice Department quite intentionally left on the cutting room floor because they didn't want any proof involving stuff that happened when Biden was vice president.
Andy, if Hunter is brought in under oath, can he take the Fifth Amendment now?
Oops, we just lost him. He's coming back in 1 second. Yeah, we have Miranda Devine. So why don't we go to Miranda Devine, who is now joining us.
Calling back.
Is he calling back? Do we know? Okay, we're trying to get him back. Well, while we're trying to figure that out.
How about this breaking news?
Go ahead. What do we got?
What is this?
Breaking news, WABC.
Well, this is kind of rough stuff as we're talking about legal stuff. A Florida woman sentenced to life for zipping boyfriend into a suitcase and suffocating him. She was sentenced to life in prison after leaving him to die of suffocation amid a history of domestic and alcohol abuse. Wow.
Why don't we get that before too many wives get the idea?
What was the name? John Wayne Bobbitt? John Wayne Bobbitt.
Andy is back.
Andy is back. Andy, let's go back to, if we could, to the Hunter Biden case.
Yeah, Andy, I was asking you, can he take the Fifth Amendment now?
No.
Yeah.
He can be. He could be held in contempt because he's got no.
Right.
If you don't have criminal exposure, you don't have a Fifth Amendment.
Yeah. Did you see this, by the way? David Friedman, who's an attorney, but also the former U.S. ambassador to Israel, kind of made a little bit of that point. And in many ways, he was saying that this prevents Hunter from pleading the Fifth. And in many ways, it almost opens the door that he could get questioned more now about the family business dealings. Your thought on that, Andy?
Well, this goes to the point I was trying to make before, Rita. I think that what Biden may do in the end is give enough pardon coverage to anyone who's involved that it doesn't make sense to investigate that anymore.
That means a brother Jim, Andy.
Yeah, I think so, too. I'm not sure it's just the brother Jim because there are a number of close associates of the Bidens that are involved in this who helped them sort of whack up the money and stuff. So it could be broader than that.
Yeah, because wasn't it at one point it was like all these different family members, almost like 12 different accounts. Andy,
right.
Thank you for calling back, too, and I'm so glad we had you on such an important day.
Thanks, Andy.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you very much. And now we got Miranda Devine for her take. Boy, she has been following and breaking scoops on Hunter Biden from the very beginning. Miranda, what is your reaction, first of all, to this huge news that the president has pardoned his son and he blames it, saying it was, essentially lawfare against his son?
Well, it's laughable, isn't it? I mean, I think it's the least surprising news of the decade. He was always going to pardon Hunter, and it didn't matter that he said a dozen times that he would never do that. He's always lied about everything, went to get himself out of scrapes. I mean, he lied his way into office. Remember when he said repeatedly, probably a dozen times as well, that he never was in business with his son Hunter or never knew about any of his son Hunter's overseas business dealings. So we've come full circle. I don't find it a surprise, but there's breaking news just out, which is that the special counsel, David Weiss, has rejected the pardon, and he rejects the suggestion that he selectively prosecuted Hunter Biden. He's made some filings in court where he objected to dismissing the charges.
Wow. Wow.
That's a wow.
Wow. So wait, let's just explain that again, because that is big news. I don't see that anywhere.
Slowly.
Wow.
All right, so I'll do this, and then I think the lawyers among you must.
Yeah, let's do breaking news. Hold on 1 second. Here we go.
Breaking news, WABC.
Miranda, take it away, because you've got this big scoop. Go ahead.
The special counsel, David Weiss, has rejected suggestions that he selectively prosecuted Hunter Biden, and he just submitted some court filings where he objected to dismissing the charges after the pardon. He's rejected the pardon, basically. I don't know if he's able to do that, but certainly that's what he's done in this. He said there was none and never has been any evidence of vindictive or selective prosecution in this case.
All right, hold on one sec. We got Judge Weinberg here. Can he do that? Can he block that pardon?
No, I don't think he can block the pardon, but I think what he's trying to do is vindicate what's left of his reputation for selling out from the very beginning.
And also get in the record to be part of the history of the case.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can't reject the presidential pardon.
Right, you would think a presidential pardon, right, has precedent.
Listen, so even if the judge wanted to do that, you have all kinds of constitutional separation of powers issues about that, because the president does have pardoning authority. The interesting thing about the pardon, Miranda, is it goes back to January 1 of 2014. So it's an open-ended for a whole decade. And that's a very, very big deal. It goes back to the roots of what you investigated from the very, very beginning.
Exactly. And I mean, that in itself is incriminating. It's not 10 years, it's 11 years. This is an unprecedented in history it's a length of a pardon. And the fact that he's gone back to 2014 is telling, because 2014 was a crucial year for Ukraine. In February of 2014 was the Maidan Revolution, and after that, Joe Biden became basically the emperor of Ukraine. He was the vice president of the United States. Barack Obama had tasked him to have carriage of Ukraine, basically to be the big poobah. Ukraine was now totally dependent on the West, on the United States for its money. It was broke. And what does Joe Biden do? Well, 4 months later, in April, Hunter Biden goes onto the board of that corrupt Ukrainian energy company, Burisma, is paid $1 million a year. And that's the most corrupt company in the most corrupt country in Europe. And Joe Biden would fly into Kyiv all the time, and he would lecture the Ukrainians on corruption. He would say corruption is a cancer. And they all knew that his son was sitting on the board of Burisma.
Wow.
That had to be embarrassing to our own country.
It is.
Miranda, this is Pete King. I have a question. Do you think that the New York Post, Bob Alinsky, and you are going to get formal apologies finally?
Who from? No way. Right. I mean, Joe Biden and his constellation of media toadies, they all believe in him. They all believe this cock and bull story that he only just decided that he was going to pardon Hunter over the Thanksgiving holiday. The latest story is that was because Jill Biden pleaded with him to, not put the rule of law ahead of his own family. And Joe Biden is always intended to pardon Hunter. And we know that in part because, of his character, but also because of the reckless way that Hunter and his very expensive lawyers behaved. You would not behave that way if you did not have in your back pocket the knowledge that you had a pardon.
Yeah, it's really incredible to see what's happened. Thank you also for the big breaking news. Miranda, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for all the great work you did on this, really.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's take a break, but coming on afterwards is
Mark Meadows, former chief of staff for Trump. Wow, can't wait to hear from him.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. By the way, coming up in a few minutes before we get to Mark Meadows, we are going to be talking afterwards just after the break with former Governor Andrew Cuomo and also Bill O'Reilly, both of them to get their reaction on this huge news of President Biden pardoning his son and also some of these new developments that have just come in. Well, joining us now, he was chief of staff there at the White House for President Trump in his first term and also former Congressman Mark Meadows. Mark, it's great to talk to you. We haven't talked to you in a while. Your reaction, first of all, to this Hunter Biden news that President Biden has pardoned his son and blames it on lawfare, says he's being politically persecuted because his last name's Biden.
Well, obviously, this doesn't come as a surprise to your listeners, nor to you, Rita, nor to me, because a lot of us knew that from day one that Joe Biden was going to pardon his son, and yet to see how they're trying to spin this as lawfare, is the epitome of hypocrisy. And yet what we do know is that at the end of the day, the people that are going to object the most to this are not necessarily the Republicans. It's the Democrats that are losing their mind right now because they're seeing their political narrative fall apart on the eve of actually President Donald Trump being sworn in as the 47th president of the United States.
Peter King.
Hey, Mark, it's good to talk to you again. It's Pete King from New York, you North Carolina guy. First of all, it was great serving with you. Thank you for all the great work you did for the country. How are things going right now? And you must feel really gratified to see President Trump's victory. It's really a rejection of all the things that you and the president had to put up with.
Well, Pete, it's great to talk to you again, and the people of New York were really well served when you were a member of Congress. You and I represented very different areas, but you and I also were able to fight very tenaciously for the people we represented. And so the people of New York can be remember the good old days when Pete King was their member of Congress.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes, it is gratifying. It's very gratifying. I mean, not only were we following the results on November 5th and 6th, but we were also looking at what message they were sending. And what they sent, Pete, is across the country from coast to coast, from Maine to Florida and from New York to California, is that times were better under Donald Trump and that they will be good again. And specifically, one of the things that you and I have talked about that the president's going to address is tax relief, and that may come in the form of a SALT cap and some repeal of that, as the president has made promises on the campaign trail.
Now, he saved the world. He saved the free world. I've been saying that over and over again, that President Trump has saved the free world because the free world wasn't free. How do we unlock and save our inner cities? What do we do next?
It's the start of that, John. I can tell you that what really has to happen is they have to understand that government's not the answer, that ultimately those individual freedoms and the ability to unlock those freedoms and let people prosper is what it's all about. And so President Trump has been taking that message to cities across the country, many of them controlled by Democrat city councils and Democrat mayors. And yet all of a sudden, some of the people in these cities are saying, well, I've been sold a bill of goods. Things are not that good. And yet what I do see happening is both in the financial side of things and also in the business side of things, that they will unleash the free markets in a way that you've never seen. We will see prosperity again. And the president is, he is so far ahead of the game than he was in 2016. If you'll recall, he didn't name a Secretary of Ag really until I think the day before inauguration, if I recall correctly. He's going to have his full cabinet. They're going to be in a full court press to get these folks confirmed, and he's done a great job with the nominees so far.
Also, Mark, a lot of the people he used or he picked in 2017, 2016, they were recommended to him by establishment. And the fact is now he knows who to pick, who not to pick, and he's doing it all on his own. That's why I think Kash Patel is a great pick, by the way.
I think Kash is a great pick, Peter, and here's the interesting thing is the dynamics have completely shifted in 8 years. Donald Trump came in 2016 and 17 as a business guy, knew nothing about politics. You and I had more political savvy than he had experienced, other than the fact that he wrote checks and donated to people. Now what happens is 8 years later, it's completely turned. Not only is he more sophisticated in that, but he has the power and the mandate from the American people, Peter. And I think Kash Patel, listen, I had the benefit of having Kash Patel actually work for me and with me. I've seen him in the House. I've seen him actually working as chief of staff for acting Secretary of Defense at DOD. And not only is he responsive, but people have a belief of who Cash is based on maybe a media hit or a YouTube hit. He, as you point out, is the real deal and will be able to manage the FBI in a very effective way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking for that big change, and you know him well. Mark Meadows, it is so great to have you here. You got to come back on again soon. We miss you.
Great to be with you guys. Take care.
Thank you, Mark. Great talking to you. Keep
Thank
hanging
you,
strong.
Mark.
You're great.
Yeah, you're terrific, Mark. Thank you very, very much. Former chief of staff there for President Trump.
And right now we're going to go to the news.
First the news.
First the news. Then we got to take a quick break, and then we get Andrew Cuomo. Stand by. Andrew Cuomo has a lot to say.
It's the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya. Here's Rita Cosby.
And there is a lot of news, as we've been talking about. The White House is denying now that President Biden lied when he previously said he would not pardon his son Hunter. Spokeswoman Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters on Air Force One that Biden only came to the decision suddenly this weekend.
She has a distant relationship to the truth.
Yeah, somehow an epiphany happened, I guess, this weekend, right? Republicans and some Democrats were not happy with the pardon, claiming Biden put family ahead of country. We'll get to that again with Andrew Cuomo and Bill O'Reilly after the break. Also, President-elect Trump is warning Hamas to release the October 7th hostages. In a new post, Trump warns that there will be all hell to pay if they are not immediately released before he assumes office on January 20th. He adds that those responsible will be, quote, hit harder than anyone has been hit in the history of the United States if they're not released. Love that, John, right?
Take that warning.
Yeah, take that warning. And everybody stay tuned. Andrew Cuomo right after the break.
You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, we had a lot of breaking news today, and now we have former Governor Andrew Cuomo. And, Governor Cuomo, what was your reaction to these pardons?
Hiya, John. Hiya, Rita. Hiya, Peter.
Hey, Andrew.
I tell you, John, it makes me sad. I understand their semantic difference they're trying to make. He didn't lie. He changed his mind. Yeah. I think it's sad. It's hypocritical. He said he wasn't going to do it, and he did. Now, look, everyone understands that family first, and you'll do anything for your children, and you would literally put your life on the line for your child. Everyone understands that. But what they don't understand is changing your mind, saying one thing and doing something else, and also the justification for it. Mm-hmm. Well, look, the justice system is political. It's your justice system, President Biden. What a damning commentary to say the federal justice system was political and that's why they prosecuted my son. To say your justice system was playing politics after we just went through a campaign where we saw Donald Trump saying the same thing. And here in New York, we saw the trials that were brought. And many New Yorkers were saying this is pure politics. Many Americans said this is pure politics.
Especially what happened in New York State.
That is exactly right.
What happened to you? What happened to Eric Adams? What happened, Yes.
Look, I used to say when I was Attorney General, if you give me someone's tax returns, I'll find a way to indict them. You cannot target a person. If you target a person as a prosecutor, yes, you can get an indictment. And when you start to play politics with the justice system, that's the final straw. You want to know why people are fed up? The one thing that you were not supposed to play politics with was the justice system. And now it's all too often and rampant.
And Andrew, not one big time attorney other than a guy like Alan Dershowitz objected. And I was really upset about that.
Well, look, there is no doubt that it was rampant through the justice system, especially here in New York. And that is frightening. That is frightening. You know, we don't put political opponents in jail, right? That's Russia does that, right?
Yeah, we're very close to a lot of them.
Yeah. You know, I have a question, Governor. If you were governor, would you pardon Trump for the New York cases?
Because it's even more important. How about Penny?
Yeah, well, and the Penny case too. But what do you think? Should he be pardoned for the New York cases?
Well, look, the New York cases, I want to see what happens when they finish with the judicial system. I want to see what the court actually does with these cases. Because it is clear now, especially it just reinforced with the president's statement, this was politics. It was politics. You have prosecutors in New York who campaign saying, I'm going to get Trump if you elect me. And then they get elected, and then they target President Trump. It was politics. And I believe that. I've said it before. And the American people believe it. And I think that was one of the main drivers in this election, that migrants, inflation, but just a distrust of the system.
Peter King.
Yeah, Andrew, great talk to you again. Let me ask you a political but a nonpartisan question. After the last election, do you think there's going to be a change within the Democratic Party to be more attentive to working people, to middle-income people, and to move away from the elitist attitude?
Peter, I hope so. I hope so. And if the Democratic Party doesn't look in the mirror, shame on them. Because it wasn't just this election. This has been coming for a while. We saw it here in New York in the last round of elections, where you had a Democratic governor barely win in what was traditionally a blue state. People have gotten fed up. The Democratic Party has become too attuned to elitists, I'll use your word, extremists, the far, far left, who are disconnected from the day-to-day agenda of working men and women. That's what the Democratic Party was all about, right? The Democratic Party was...
My family, Al Smith Democrats, yep.
Yes, Al Smith Democrats, we're for the working men and women, lower income, working families, middle class. The Republicans were for the rich and taking care of the rich and trickle down. And what happened in this election is the Democratic Party got disconnected from its base because we weren't speaking to the issues and values that mattered to them, Peter, and because government wasn't working. Because you walk down the street and you see homeless, mentally ill people, and you see crime out of control, and you see dirt, and you see rats, and you feel a sense of panic and disorder in the cities, all across the country, by the way, not just New York. And government failed. It operationally failed, and it failed to represent the working men and women of this country.
And, you know, it seems that they still don't have the self-reflection, as I'm sure you've seen even the postmortems from the election, Governor. It's incredible that, you know, they're still trying to figure it out. And she still owes money. We just said she didn't win a single county. That hasn't happened since didn't flip a county.
It was the first time since 1932, Andrew. There's 3,144 counties in the country. She didn't uplift.
Yeah, she didn't flip. She didn't flip a single one. That's amazing.
Look, there is no doubt. There is no doubt that the Democratic Party has to take a look in the mirror and has to admit its fault because
yes, who's going to Andrew? Who's going to bring it back? You saw what James Carville wrote this morning.
Yeah.
Who's going to bring the Democratic Party back to center, back to common sense?
By the way, I believe the majority of Democrats are common sense moderates. It's that the extremists have gotten more powerful. It's the tail wagging the dog.
Yes, they're scared. The common sense Democrats are scared of the ones that are, whatever you want to call them. They're regressives.
They are afraid of the far left. They're afraid they're going to get primaried. So the moderates have been cowed. That's what's happened. And what this election says is, well, when you lose touch with the everyday reality of people, which is not about gender change operations for criminals. That's not what people are concerned about. When you lose touch with the working men and women, it's not about party. It's about who's going to represent me. And the Democrats failed that question.
By the way, Andrew, thank you very much for calling Margot this morning for her birthday. And Cardinal Dolan called her too. And
how beautiful.
And Bill Clinton sent a very nice note.
Wow.
Gatsmatita's 21 years old. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Margot.
Yeah, she looks 20, I think. I think you're aging her by saying 21, Governor. She does look amazing. Judge Weinberg.
Governor, good to talk to you again. What I want to ask you about is the civil case brought by the Attorney General of the state against Trump, which you had a ridiculous $400-odd million fine and penalty against Donald Trump. And she campaigned on getting Trump, and this could have bankrupted him. And it's also a chilling impact on people doing business in the state on a proposal to use a law that had never been used before. What are your comments?
Well, Judge, I was the Attorney General.
I know.
It was an extraordinary case for the Attorney General to bring. These are consumer protection laws. To bring a case on a false appraisal against the bank when the bank wasn't even the victim, nobody lost money. I believe it was politically motivated. I believe that office has been used to play politics. And I know that better than most. And when the president says today, political prosecution's my son, there was a long list of names he could have gone through who were victims of political prosecution, not just his son. And if he was going to speak to the issue, he should have spoken to the full list of political prosecutions.
Including in New York State.
Including in New York State.
And you know what we're talking about, Andrew. Yeah.
Yes, and not just his son, right? This is President Biden who called for my resignation, said he never read the report. He never read the report, but called for my resignation. Yeah, there is politics in the justice system, and it's not just his son.
Before we let you go, Daniel Penny, your thoughts on that case?
We'll see what happens with that case, Rita. But again, the larger point is we have to understand that we have this justice system has gotten out of control. It's a political weapon, and it has to stop.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that for sure. Governor, thank you very, very much for joining us. We always appreciate your perspectives. You got to come back on again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, Reader. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Governor, very much.
Why don't we do this? Let's take a break, and we're going to come back. We had a powerful Italian. Now we have a powerful Irish guy, Bill O'Reilly. So stand by after the break.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, we are back here on Katz and Cosby. Everybody talking about the Hunter Biden pardon and so much more. Joining us now is the great mega best-selling nonfiction author. There he is, Bill O'Reilly, another big bestseller, Confronting the President. Also, Common Sense with Bill O'Reilly is the great show every weeknight here on WABC Radio, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Bill, your thoughts on everything? We just had a very interesting conversation there with Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, Cuomo got hit by politics. He didn't get indicted, but he got shuffled out of there because they set him up for that. And he, alluded to it but didn't say it. But I'll say it because that's my job. So you guys want to know what really happened in the Hunter Biden thing?
Yeah, please fill us in.
Okay. So the judge was right that from the jump, Hunter Biden knew, and his attorney, Abby Lowell, who I grew up in the same town with, knew that Hunter was going to get a pardon. And it wasn't said in words. It was just said, don't worry. That's what was word. So their posture, Hunter Biden's attorneys, was, we're going to try to put together this deal in Delaware that not only is a sweetheart deal, but will indemnify Hunter Biden for everything he's ever done his entire life. Okay? And the judge rightly said, well, I'm not going to do this. So then Plan B kicked in. And Plan B was Joe Biden would continue to say, I'm not going to pardon my son, because they all felt Kamala Harris would be the next president. And who's going to pardon Hunter? Kamala Harris. That was the deal. So when Harris lost, then they had to go to Plan C, which was that Biden would pardon his son and say that this never should have happened in the first place, which he did, which angered Weiss, the prosecutor in Delaware, who put out this statement he's going to go to court to get on the record that he didn't finger this guy because he was a political player. Now, Weiss can't stop the pardon. Weiss is just doing this because he wants to cover his butt down the lane, because Weiss wants to get a big job at a university. He doesn't want this hanging out there. So that's where we are right now. Questions, comments?
You know what's interesting, Bill? We all, when it came down that he had pardoned his son, my first reaction was, yeah, he's a father pardoning. I thought so too, that he would ultimately obviously do it at some point, or make sure someone else did it, to your point, like Kamala Harris, if she were to have been elected. The language that he came out, what was your reaction just in general of the tactic that he took, saying it's all political persecution? I mean, it was a very, like, if his name wasn't Hunter, this never would have happened. I mean, and that seems to be the line from the White House everywhere, as opposed to it's a father pardoning his son.
It's just more incompetence and dishonesty. You know, the big picture, and I deal with this tonight on Common Sense in great detail, so people can tune in at 9 o'clock. Look, Joe Biden is the second worst president ever. And I proved that in Confronting the Presidents, which, by the way, yesterday was number 5 on the New York Times list after 12 weeks of the marketplace.
Wow, that's big. Congrats.
And, you know, Melania is kicking me, but I'm beating everybody else.
Women do that.
Anyway, so what this does is it hurts President Biden's historical legacy. We can't get rid of him fast enough. He's worse than Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter's got no presidential legacy. There's not a person on earth that's going to stick up for his 4 years because it was a disaster. Biden was worse. And this just piles on that disaster, that he's not trustworthy, that he doesn't tell the truth. This happened in 2001, where Bill Clinton pardoned his half-brother, Roger Clinton. You remember this?
I remember that, yep.
So Roger Clinton was a drug addict, just like Hunter Biden. And he got popped for selling cocaine. He had to do a stretch, and his half-brother pardoned him. What people don't know about that case is that Roger Clinton accepted $50,000 in a Rolex wife from the Gambino crime family. Did anybody know that?
Never heard.
$50,000 and a Rolex from the Gambinos, because one of them was serving a 49-year-old stretch in the federal pen for narcotics trafficking, and they wanted Bill Clinton to pardon Gambino. Bill Clinton's much smarter than Joe Biden, would not do it. But he pardoned Roger because he thought that Bush, the younger, might go after Clinton, Roger Clinton, for doing this grift with the Gambino family. Now, this is Curtis Leawood territory, I understand. But I'm a journalist, so I got to bring this out. So it's just, these sleazy deals are made all the time, even at the highest levels of our government.
Bill, one concern that the Biden should still have, though, is that I don't believe that he can effectively, Hunter Biden can effectively claim the Fifth Amendment. So if he's brought in under oath in a wide-ranging investigation of the Biden family, he has to tell the truth. He can't tell he can't take the Fifth Amendment. So that could open it up to at least put them in a very awkward position.
I don't believe that will happen. I don't think that President Trump is going to go after the Biden family. What he will do, and I think should do, is take a look at the January 6th situation. Now, the way to do that is to set up a commission out of the Justice Department under Pan Bondi to look at the convictions, to go over them, to review them. And, you know, there are some people got hosed there. I would not commute the sentence or pardon anybody who used violence. But there were people up there who got prison time, and they weren't violent. And I think that Trump will do that.
But, Bill, it doesn't have to be Trump. I mean, Congress.
We're going to look at it.
The Republicans in Congress can do an investigation. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on people like Jim Jordan, Comer.
With all due respect to your party, congressmen, they're not exactly Elliot Ness.
Well, some are. No, don't sell them short. I mean, there's been some good investigations. I think you have some good people. I think Jim Jordan can do a good job.
I don't think I disagree entirely.
Okay. Well, I don't. I disagree with you entirely.
All right. Well, let me make my argument real quick.
Right.
They could have roasted Joe Biden. There's no doubt he influenced peddled. There's no doubt he enriched his brother and his son. He did it. They couldn't get it.
Right, but now they can. If Hunter Biden can't take the Fifth Amendment, they can force him to testify. That's the difference.
Did they come close, Bill O'Reilly, to crossing the line, close or crossing the line on treason?
On what? Which
treason.
One?
He's talking about the Biden family behavior.
No, it's not treason. It's and it's been done throughout history. U.S. Grant's brother, a whole bunch of them. They just use their power to enrich the family. There's a lot of stuff with Joe Biden. He refinances his homes on a regular basis. Why? There's no reason for him to do that.
Taking the money out.
Well, look, this is what the Republican-led congressional committees should have gotten, and they didn't.
Judge Weinberg.
Bill, I want to change the subject, if you don't mind. I want to talk to you about the Daniel Penny case. What are your thoughts about that prosecution of that former Marine in the subway situation?
Number one. And if the stupid jury convicts them, then they're going to get overturned on appeal because there's so much reasonable doubt. And remember, in a criminal case, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. And if you look at the transcripts of what the testimony is, there is an incredible amount of doubt about Penny's actions and intentions. And then the coroner comes in and says the New York City coroner purposely booted it. If you're a jury member and you convict Penny, that's just blatantly dishonest. So I think in the end he wins. I hope he wins tomorrow. I hope they come back and say not guilty, because that's what a slam dunk I see on reasonable doubt.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also, Bill, if he is found guilty or even a hung jury, if it continues and they say they want to retry him or whatever, all I'm thinking about is the damage it causes to other people who want to step up and help. Anybody who's been on a New York City subway knows how crazy and scary it is.
Samaritans.
Yes, it totally does. Your thoughts on that?
The end game on this is you got to get Bragg out of there. He's up next year, right? 25?
Yes.
You got to get him out. I mean, this is, and they're booting him out in California like crazy. All right, L.A., San Francisco, Oakland, all three gone.
I think it was 12 out of 24 woke DA.
Yeah, and he got Soros money. Bragg got $1 million Soros money last time. That's what propelled him.
I'm going to vote for Aaron Rodgers, okay, over Bill Bragg. I mean, I just can't believe that this guy could get reelected with the damage he's done to New York City.
Yeah, and especially just like you said, I think there's been such a wake-up call across the country, Bill, about people wanting law and order and logic, and yet let's see what happens. But you're right, there also has to be some real competitors, too, against him, too, to knock him out, Bill.
Yeah, but somebody will step up. I think there's a woman who's already...
Maud Maron. Maud Maron, yep.
Maud's going to run as a Republican in a Democratic county.
Yeah, former Democrat, right? Isn't she a former Democrat and now Republican? But you're right. Let's see. Hopefully, New York wakes up. Absolutely. Bill, thank you so much. It's great to have you on, and everybody's going to be tuning in tonight. Common Sense with Bill O'Reilly at 9 p.m. Bill, thank you very much.
Okay, guys.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.
I'll be listening.
Thank you. We all will
Thank
be.
you.
Thank
and
you.
what do we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
And I want to thank God for helping the free world stay free.
And also, happy birthday to beautiful
birthday to Margo.
Margo.
And happy birthday, Margo.
Take advantage of the exclusive holiday offer at Panorama Optical. Enjoy 15% off prescription glasses. And with every $500 spent on glasses, receive a complimentary pair of frames. Absolutely free. Don't miss this limited time deal running until January 1st, 2025. For eyeglasses, contact lenses, and to put your life in focus. Visit 241 Broadway in Lynbrook, New York, or call Panorama Optical at 516-341-0297 to schedule your appointment today. 516-341-0297.
When you visit Arizona, time is measured in moments, not minutes. Like the moment you see the Grand Canyon for the first time. Visit a new state of mind. Learn more at hereyouareaz.com.